Hey kids, howdy, and welcome to Conscious Embodiment, Dreams and Astrology with Dr. Michael Lennox. It is the week of August 11th, so we're talking about the 11th through the 17th. But I want to address a question about August 8th, because after last week's podcast, I did get some emails from people and a comment or two on social media why I didn't talk about the Lionsgate portal.
I don't actually know that word.
Well, that's okay, Zoe, because it's not astrology. It's just one of those pop consciousnesses that. So this is why I didn't talk about it, because it's not a thing, and it's certainly not astrology on any stretch. So even if it's a thing on some level in some other modality, it is not a thing in astrology. Okay. So let's talk about it. It's the idea that the Leo sun is conjunct Sirius, a fixed star at that time. And so that's the Lionsgate, that because the Leo sun is lining up with this star, it's supposed to open up some great portal of download of fabulosity. Okay, so this comes out of Egypt, where there was no Leo. Right? The signs as we know them come from like Roman astrology, which means Greek came before and Egypt before that, then, Mesopotamia and Zoroastria, right? So there is no Leo sun. What does happen in Egypt around the beginning of August is the Nile floods. And it's a significant moment in the cultural life of ancient Egypt. So when Sirius rose before the sun, which is akin to being conjunct the sun, it was time to, celebrate or do something addressing that significant moment in Egypt's culture. So somehow, this is not astrology. It got, brought up in the current zeitgeist a couple of decades ago. And someone put something out about it somewhere, and people grabbed onto the idea. And now it's become this big thing that every August 8th, people are putting out, oh my God, the download of the Lionsgate is coming. And all I can tell you is that every August 8th for the last 25 years, I have paused to see if there's anything different about that day or those few days. And there isn't. Lionsgate, not astrology. That's why I don't talk about it.
Why'd they pick August 8th specifically?
Well, because that is when, I guess, Sirius is conjunct the sun.
Oh, got it.
Right,
okay.
That's the time back in Egypt when when the Nile flooded. So the celebration that might have been the Lionsgate 5,000 years ago. Forgive my history. I don't know how many thousand years ago that was. So why the modern folk call it the Lionsgate is because of the Leo sun conjunct the Sirius fixed star. And that ain't nothing that any of us are feeling in our bodies. It's fine if you want to use that moment to have a conscious reflection of you and the universe, having a conversation and lie down for a download. That's never a bad idea. But I promise you, it's not greater on August 8th than it is on the 7th or 9th. I have a question from Bailey. I'm going to do 2 shorter questions today. This is a funny little question, but it makes sense that someone might have this perception. Let me clear this up. So Bailey writes, when the moon or sun transits your natal moon or sun in conjunction or opposition, do you treat this similarly or differently than an actual new or full moon? Would you recommend setting intentions in the same way? So this is actually a really simple answer because the answer is no. Here's why. A transit is energy that's out there in the cosmos where there's a dynamic geometry that's happening beyond the scope of Earth that we receive energetically and have to sort of hold. So when the sun and the moon cosmically come together, the gravity on Earth is all being pulled in one way. And so we align with that power and we set intentions when the fertile soil is drawing all the water down into it. And so we use that farming analogy to translate to the psyche of setting intentions. And then when the moon is full and the sun and moon are opposite, that's also a dynamic transit that pulls the gravity from the ground into the plants above, which is when we harvest because all the mojo is in the fruit, not in the stalk. So you don't have that when the moon is crossing your sun or the sun is crossing your moon, because the point that it's transiting is an abstract. It doesn't exist, right? It's a point of sensitivity inside a person's psyche that we ascribe to the astrological placements at birth. So the sun placement isn't the sun anymore, right? Time has moved on. But it's a point in abstract consciousness that relates to the person we're talking about, whoever's chart it is. So if the moon is transiting your sun, that's just a moment where your sense of self will also connect to sort of deeper consciousness, and you'll feel a sense of inner balance and harmony because your conscious awareness is sort of being touched by the moon's capacity to bring the unconscious forward. If the moon conjuncts your moon, that's your lunar cycle, and that's not really a transit per se of like, oh, wow, this is how you're going to feel that day. It's the beginning of your natural lunar cycle. And when the sun transits your natal moon, it has the impact of shining light into your unconscious spaces, and there can be a kind of an integration and awareness created when you move through that transit. So no, they're not to be treated as new moons or full moons at all, though you can set intentions at any time you want. And so if you're lit up by such a transit, great day to set intentions, but not quite like we do with a new and full moon. All right, kids, so today is a very big day, and there are 3 things I'm going to talk about that all happened today, and that's going to be our podcast, pretty much.
The whole week is
the
just
whole
all
week
on one
is
day.
crunchy, juicy, Monday, August 11th. Well, it starts with a happy, let's have a party, because Mercury has gone direct. Thank God. I probably said this before, but I have never had such a difficult Mercury retrograde. Especially
Really?
technically, I had so many problems with class setups and automations and Zoom and there was a class where it was 8 minutes late because the Zoom things had crossed hatches, and you know me, I'm never late. You know, if I'm late for a class, there
Right.
are people who think I've died.
Yeah.
At any rate, part of why it was such a juicy, bumpy, retrograde portion of the cycle is because there were no triple transits to other planets anchoring Mercury's movement, right? Mercury's backwards, so not really in our sights. He's in the unconscious. But if he's periodically making hits with different planets in each of the 3 sections of the retrograde, we feel connected to the process, and therefore there's great value in working with the transits as they hit. And so in my daily Astro Alert subscription, I'm always telling people, look back at this date, look up that date, whenever a date is significant. And we didn't have that in this retrograde. So this podcast always launches at midnight Monday, right? As Sunday becomes Monday at midnight Pacific, we launch the podcast. And 30 minutes later, Mercury went direct at 12:30 a.m. today. So it's probably already happened if you're listening to this podcast anytime after the first half hour that it hit. Now, I'm going to talk about all of the other planets retrograde and my sort of issuing of that as well. So it's a double whammy for Dr. Michael, talking about the things he doesn't think are valid. So what I'm talking about is the fact that Pluto is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, so is Neptune and Chiron, and as of today, or as of yesterday, ending today, Mercury. So what the language will be out there is how much this is an interference with our forward movement, that there's like big drag on the system, we can't accomplish things, or that's nonsense. Just look around the world. There's like, if you looked at the world here today now with all of these planets retrograde and then just tapped in when they're all direct, I don't think you would be able to find evidence that things are slowing down when they're all retrograde and moving up when they go direct. In 35 years, I've never had the experience of feeling it myself, which I've said a million times. Apologies for repeating it, but that's how I sort of sit in this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that there isn't a shift. There's a shift. It's so subtle and so global and universal and higher consciousness. It's not an energy that we feel in the third dimension where we exist. So when the 5-dimensional consciousness takes a little breath backwards, yay for the 5-dimensional consciousness. But we don't feel it. You know, I'm attending to wounds 24/7. Like, I never really move out of the idea that I'm working with my own sort of psyche in a healing and expanded way. And I'm sitting with people on the regular in lots of different, forums, hearing about the healings of their wounds. And I'm telling you, it doesn't get deeper or stronger because Chiron is retrograde. It just doesn't. Yeah. If I do a class when Chiron is direct and then I do a different one that's also a shadow work while he's, retrograde, there's not going to be a difference in the quality of the experience. Anyway, lecture over. There are certainly lots of ways and reasons they're important to talk about. Certainly in your personal life, if you're in a big transit from an outer social planet, you should be clocking the retrogrades for your own journey. But that's not the astrology that I do on social media. I do the astrology that's general for everybody. So Mercury's at 4 degrees of Leo still. He's been there for a couple of days in his station. He ain't moving till the 15th of August. So know that between now and Friday, even though Mercury is direct, there's a sluggishness and a slowness. If the planet of communication is barely moving, then in some ways, our minds and our voices will be slower as well. You want to pay attention to stuff that's happening from today through the 24th of the month. That's the third act, the direct station of Mercury's retrograde, right? So there's 3 acts. The first one where he's touching stuff that he's going to cover, then the backward motion we're just coming out of, and this wrap up. Normally, I would talk about all of the major transits he's made twice and now a third time. But you, all of us, you, me, in our individual lives have had significant Mercury experiences. So there's plenty to pay attention to as it related to you all as individuals. There is one little thing to maybe look back at, but only if something specific really happened on June 30th. On June 30th, give or take a day or two, either side, Mercury semi-squared Mars. Kind of a mild conflict transit. And then Thursday and Sunday of this week, Mercury is going to sextile Mars. Part of why that's possible is that Mercury's not moving and Mars is. So, right, they'll sextile on Thursday, then Mars will move a little bit forward, and Mercury won't. So they'll or will a little bit enough. So that means the entire sort of last part of this week features some powerful, good communication, aligned with our goals and ambitions and bodies and how we want to like move and go and do. I like that this sextile has a kind of 4-day legs, because when Mercury starts to like move forward and hits 5 degrees of Leo, by the time we get to the end of the weekend, mind is clear. We're interacting with our productivity in a creative way. Mars in Leo is very creative, and now that he's out of his retrograde, we might be able to push some of our creative ideas out there. And this productive interaction with Mars, even though he's in detriment in Leo, he's still Mars. And so we enter next week with a sense of mind and body, walk and talk in pretty good alignment. So the reason why so much is happening on the planet at a revolutionary pace is from the grand sextile that's being formed by Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini. I've gone over this so many times, I hope I'm not like boring you when I sort of repeat that. Pluto is slow change, all the way down to the molecular level, and Uranus is fast revolutionary change, where freedom is sort of the watchword, and they're in a trine. Trines mean flow. That means we have the good fortune, if you could call it that, of moving through a period where everything is changing wildly, deeply, suddenly, unexpectedly. And it's the grand sextile is being created by Neptune and Saturn splitting that trine into two 60-degree chunks. Now, this is a lovely setup because sextiles are productive energy. If you pick them up, you can make great things with the energy of two bodies in 60 degrees. But you have to include the interpretation of the setup, right? That Pluto and Uranus are in air signs, and that it's a perfect sextile with fire from Aries, the sign of war, literally reflecting wars everywhere on the planet, most especially for me as an American right here in the United States. Like the Civil War is begun in earnest. So what's happening today is that sextile between Saturn and Uranus is perfecting. It's exact today. So this pattern is being held all summer long and all of next year, but it's being held loosely. Everybody's moving, and the 60 degrees is implied because they're moving slowly enough together and retrograding in the right and appropriate places to have this energy blossom this summer, retract as Saturn and Neptune and Uranus move back into where they were, Taurus and Pisces, diminishing the hotness of the summer when the summer's over, and then they return next year. But all in these sort of loose sextile energies, and the one piece of precision in the summer is today. Saturn, responsibility, Uranus, sudden changes going on, working together, right? So I haven't been looking at the news this weekend, and I don't know what what might be happening in current events as we move into this week, but there might be some kind of a hotness or a peak of things happening outside there while we move into this week because of the exactness of the geometry. The geometry is 1 degree of Aries and 1 degree of Gemini, so that means anybody with, 0, 1, 2, 3 degree points or planets in their chart are going to receive this energy very directly based on how it's hitting you. So both responsibility and navigating sudden change is up for us too. Like on a personal level, you can think of this transit as allowing us all to sort of find that the slow, steady pace that's needed to match the fast energy, like not so slow and steady that it, pummels us, but just the right, slower, steadier in order to handle the revolutionary changes. Back to the personal. Uranus in Gemini is all about us like popping with ideas and things to share and connections to make, right? Talk about like global community. Uranus in Gemini is going to help create that over the next 8 years. So I'm trying to give you guys a kind of an equal measure of how this is going to reflect outside events and how you can use this energy for your own personal gain. But make no mistake about it, the first couple of days of this week can be productive in a way that has been elusive for the last couple of months. And when I tell you what else is happening today, it will probably bring you a little bit of comfort when things are happening in such a wild, crazy way. I think we'll be a little bit safe from things that are so unexpected that we feel, in danger. At 10:21 p.m. Pacific time, Monday night, tonight, Venus and Jupiter come together by conjunction. 14 degrees of Cancer is where they are, and I'll start talking about this conjunction by reminding you that Cancer is the sign that Jupiter is exalted in. And think of this, that if Jupiter is the planet of our manifestations and our expansions that we create, and Cancer is the sign of gestation and birthing, then the planet of manifestation has extra power to help us birth our desires for more and more of the good that is our birthright. Venus is love. Venus is the heart. And when Venus and Jupiter get together, it's the two benefics. It's oldie time astrology for nice planets. Venus is neutral in Cancer. It's not a sign that she's particularly, happy in or unhappy, but certainly Venus in Cancer is deeply personally felt by us because Cancer, as the first water sign, sort of reflects our emotional body at the personal level. Right? Scorpio, the second water, is the emotional bodies together transforming, and then Pisces is just all water, the ocean. So Venus in Cancer will help you feel the emotions of the thing you want to create before it's arrived. The hallmark of manifestation is you hold an idea in your mind of what you wish to create, and then you let your feeling body rise up with the feelings of having that thing, right? And this can be done in verbal, out loud ways, like you're manifesting a relationship, and you don't say, when I get one. You say, my relationship is so satisfying. I feel so seen. My partner's extraordinary, and it's a pleasure to love him. I feel uplifted by this experience, and I'm so grateful to have come to a place where my life is reflecting the love I have, blah, 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 blah. But you do that in a big feeling way, and I would say that Mercury, now direct, in the sign of, joy, Leo, would allow us to hold our manifestation desires in our minds very solidly because the planet of mind is not moving and he's in the sign of joy. Then the planet of manifestation itself has the feeling body conjunct with it so that this setup is perfect. Besides the fact that today, a little bit yesterday and a little bit tomorrow as well, should feel pretty good. Actually, as I say that, I should say that for some, if you're in a deeply emotional, passage, this could be a day of deep feels, from whatever you're going through. Anybody going through some grief,
Whatever your feelings are, they'll be deep.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Any feeling you're having will be amplified at the beginning of the week. And it's a perfect setup for manifestation. The hit is tonight at 10:21 p.m. Pacific time, in case that's interesting to anybody. And then, outside of, Mars and Mercury sextiling on Thursday and Sunday, there's not much else happening in the week worthy of my speaking of on the podcast. You guys know to check in with me at Red Robe Astrology, and some of you are subscribers to my daily astro alerts. And you can find out what's happening day to day there. But know that today, Monday the 17th, is kind of extraordinary. And I would invite all of you to, if nothing else, take a moment to take stock of where you're at this moment and how you're relating to the world as it is right now. With Mercury just going direct, there are going to be some ahas and awarenesses coming as he keeps moving forward in his direct posture. He will be bringing some messages from the unconscious. So an inventory today or tomorrow would be very, very valuable. Have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show.
This week we have an email in dream from Maddie. And this theme rings a bell, and I am happy to read it. So Maddie says, "Hello, I had an intense dream the night of the 17th, and my friend, who is a longtime listener, suggested I send it to you. Her name is Alexis, so shout out to Alexis." And that's awesome to hear. I love, because
I love that.
sometimes
Thanks, Alexis.
people tell me dreams, and I'm like, well, did you know I produce a dream podcast?
Right.
So it's great hearing other folks, recommend people send their dreams in. Maddie gives us a little bit of context. She says,
good.
I am a 31-year-old artist living in Los Angeles. This year has been a big year of transition for me. A breakup of a 3-year relationship, leaving a teaching job that meant a lot to me, to start working for my family. My grandmother is an amazing artist, and I began working as her assistant/caretaker. She's turning 99 in July, so she's a Leo, and I've really taken on a caretaker role for her. I've enjoyed archiving her old artworks and hearing her stories, but there's a heaviness to watching someone you love age.
Yeah.
Regardless, I'm thankful for my time with her. And then she mentions she's a Sagittarius.
You said the grandma's age, but I didn't catch it. How old is grandma?
The grandma's 99.
Got it.
Yeah. And I think that's wild, because if she needs an artist assistant, that means she's still producing art in some way. And I love that.
Love that.
Okay. My dream was that my grandma was 99, which she is turning. At the time of the dream, she had 1 month till 99.
Got it.
And she went into labor. I was at the hospital with her and her water broke and I was trying to find a wheelchair. I found one, but she wanted to stop in the hospital gift shop. This is very like my grandma. And she was buying all these plush orchids as I was trying to ring her up quickly so I could get her to the delivery room. And I remember when she was in labor, I was saying, wait, she's going to die while giving birth. She's 99. I was asking the doctor if we could do an abortion to save my grandma.
Oh.
I remember thinking I would rather have her live than have a new baby, and this deep need to save her. Then my grandma said, she's going to look a lot like you. She gave birth to a baby girl, and the doctors asked me if I would adopt her because my grandma was 99 and couldn't care for a child. I thought, well, I guess I already take care of my grandma, and so I guess I could take care of a baby too. I adopted her and named her Beatrice after my great-grandma, and her nickname was Beto, like Beatrice Wood, my favorite ceramicist. I feel a lot of emotions while dreaming, and in this one, I was feeling a lot of panic, feeling rushed, and also not having enough time. In the end, I felt peace. Anyway, this one is filled with lots of fear and loss, classic tension of wanting children, and fear of running out of time.
Yes.
Thanks for reading, Maddie.
Wow. Great. Great dream. Yeah, I mean, I can
awesome.
see all sorts of themes in this about running out of time and wanting to sort of, capture the moment. So I love that we have the context that part of what this is looking like is biological clock ticking and a fear of like that literal opportunity, maybe running out of time. But if she's 31, you got plenty of time, Maddie.
Well, and I'm wondering, does she basically answer her question in her email? Because
Well, she
with the
does for
context,
my
or-
money
Got it.
completely, but this reminds me of my friend Tracy, lifelong friend, and her dreams are often very like simple and linear. And so she'll share a dream with me as we're walking up the mountain hiking on a Saturday. And I'll say, oh, wow, what a dream. And then we'll just keep walking because I like, oh, yeah, you must get this. And then she'll stop me. She says, Michael, I don't understand it. You have to tell me, even if it's simple. So, I mean, grandma is hugely important. They are both artists. So there's a loss that's coming and time is running out. I'd rather be with grandma for the last few minutes than have a new baby is a natural thought to have if you put like a real spin on, like an in real life spin, right? I'd rather let go of the baby I know nothing about to have more of my beloved grandmother. But in fact, the baby is you, Maddie.
Okay, wait,
It's
I
the
didn't
new
expect you to say
version
that.
of you that is being born by virtue of working for your grandma and having this deep, intimate experience, not only of her, but of her life's work as she's about to shuffle off the mortal coil. So the baby is the Maddie that is ready to sort of start the next chapter while she's still in the chapter that includes caring for her grandma, working for her, and sort of making her life as comfortable as possible until she actually does pass.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that there's just a lot of like paucity in landscape, Maddie. You've ended a relationship, you've left a job, right? So right there we have the context of really blank slate, right? So that this does suggest that the baby makes some sense.
Yeah.
The baby is the representation of Maddie, who you are becoming. That it's already born indicates to me that the process that you're in is already sort of occurred. That the new you has been birthed, but it's very, very young, right? So there's a sense of it's a new, prescient energy. And it's funny, the last thing she sort of says is she's like, well, I think I can care for both grandma and the baby. At the end of the day, she agrees to that. For me, that means I can be the caretaker of grandma in real life, and I can be the caretaker of myself that is in brand new territory where I don't really know what I'm going to do next, but all possibility is in front of us. So I'm stopping a little bit at the abortion.
Well, does it just mean like fear?
Well,
to,
I mean,
to abort a mission.
Yes, it's a fear choice to say, I want this, not that.
Right.
And I know that I can probably get it. And it's an intense choice, but I'm clear. I would rather this than that. So yes, the abortion is fear that time is running out. I want grandma. But, a dream cannot be separated from the context of the world that was holding it at the time of the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So like not knowing what Maddie's position is in the political landscape, getting an abortion for care is something that's happening in the world right now that is a reflection of the great transition that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I feel somewhat comfortable bringing this in to my interpretation. I don't think it's the major theme, but it's there. She said the word. I can't disconnect that from the outside world. So there's probably also a sense that this dream is reflecting the new consciousness that will meet the world in its own, on its own terms. Right? That she's experiencing a kind of isolation from the outside world. I mean, I'm making that up. She didn't say that. But I'm sort of guessing that a woman in a big year of transition who's just ended some major structures in life and is just focusing on caretaking and this relationship with grandma, then life must feel really small. Mm-hmm. Which is a powerful place to be. Small life that comes up in a moment in the middle where we have to retract for a reason is usually going to be followed by some sort of an expansion to come. Mm-hmm. And so the baby represents the expansion to come, hitting all of Maddie's desires, herself as an artist, herself as a future potential mate, herself as a mom, and herself as a member of the human race at this time in life when so much is falling apart on the planet. We all have to somehow step up. The last thing I will say about this dream, where I can absolutely guarantee that the child is you, Maddie, is she's going to look a lot like you.
Yeah.
That to me is just, dream consciousness saying she's going to look like you because it's you. And she is going to resemble you, the 31 years of you, but she's the part of you that's going to lead you through the next chapter of your life as she grows in consciousness. And you don't know where you are at the moment. It's a real sort of like unknown landscape. Mm. The orchids are interesting. Because they're there, I sort of have to address them. So grandma wants to connect to something exotic and beautiful and interesting before she goes to whatever the process is going to be. So somehow, to me, that means that grandma also represents like opening up Maddie's consciousness to the rare, to the beautiful, to the unusual. And so that little detail peppered right in there needs a little bit of a nod. And that's what I think it's representing is the exotic beauty that the relationship that Maddie has with her grandmother, sort of offers her. So have at it.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.